Today's lesson, we're going to go over adding in families into a Revit model. Um, just to quickly brief you on families, there is two types of families. There is family files, which are RFA files that Revit loads into the project. And then there are system families. System families that exist within the project, and you just change their parameters to match what you need. For example, walls, roofs, ceilings, floors, and stairs are all examples of system families. So the parameters are made in Revit. So a wall, it's always going to start something like this, and you edit its type, and you can come in here and edit its structure. But in order to load in a wall you can't actually save a wall family as a RFA type to bring into a new project. So if you've had another Revit project and you had a wall that was built exactly how you would like it, then the way you would do it is you would just copy and paste it into the new project you're in, and then you can immediately delete the wall, but its parameters will remain, and you'd be able to find the same wall name inside your wall types over here. So same thing goes with stairs, roofs, floors, all of that. They are just parameters built within Revit. That's called a system family. What we're going to focus on mostly now is loading in the RFA family types. Um, those are doors, windows, and a variety of other things. Structural steel, we'll go through the list just so you can take a peek. But that we're going to start with doors. We're going to load in some doors that we could place into this wall. Then we'll do some windows, and then we'll talk about what it's like to put a family into a curtain wall, or a door family into a curtain wall. So in order to get doors, we normally start off with some. So you'll see we already have a single flush loaded in here. But let's say we wanted something else. We wanted something like a double door. The way we do that is we go to Insert. Now, if you're in an office, chances are you're going to have a lot of things that the office has set up for you. You can also go and find manufacturers' families too. Some popular places are Revit City and BIM Object. But for here, we're going to use the standard ones that come with Revit, which are not a bad starting point. So if I go to Load Family, we come into this directory. It gets installed on your C drive when you install Revit. It's under Program Data, Autodesk, and the version of Revit that you're in. So in this case, we're going to come down here to Doors. But just so you can see what else is in here, you have all kinds of annotations that you can load in, your tags, everything. We have casework, so if you're putting in countertops or cabinetry. Entourage, that normally involves some people for scale figures. Just a whole variety of things. We'll get into some of the structural pieces next week. But for now, you can see everything you can load in here. We're going to go to Doors. You see there's some curtain wall types on the top. You can also see there's some commercial doors. You can even find, you normally get a preview over here. You can even find a revolving door. And you can see very quickly what some of these look like. So you can find the door that you like. I'm probably just going to do a double glass door. The other thing to note is I don't have to just pick one while I'm in here. If I know I want an overhead door and a double glass door, let's find that, and the overhead. Hold down Control, grab both of them, hit Open. And what it does is it takes those files, see there, that shows the size for them, and it actually loads them into your project. And now that file size is inside your project, but it'll replicate many times without adding much more to your project. Now these two sets of doors, or one of these sets of doors, comes with a type catalog. You'll see this sometimes, and what it's doing is it's asking you, well, what types do you really want to bring in? You could select everything and hit OK. If you didn't want to add extra types to your project, you can select just what you want, but more types doesn't really matter. You can always purge them out of your project later, and they don't add much weight to your file. So I'll hit OK, load in all of those. And now, just so you can see where they go, is under Families down here in your project browser. There, you can almost see the exact same categories we saw out of those families we can load in. Um, so what we'll do is we'll go to Doors, and you'll see here's that single flush that was already in the project, and here is our door double glass. So what we would do is find the size that we wanted, and you can actually drag it, click and drag, and see how it gives me this cross symbol. I can't place the door. These are hosted in walls. But if I go near a wall, immediately it wants to place it in the wall. So I can just click and it places. And then I'd hit escape so I don't place more doors. You can also place doors by going to the Architecture tab, clicking on Door, and that'll give you the category of all these doors. But sometimes it's nice just to come and see what all the families that are in your project and their types and drag the types in. So if I wanted to do it this way, I would click Door, I would come down and find my overhead rolling door, and I'll place that. So once you've placed them, just so you can see how it works in Plan too, you can also place doors in Plan. So if I'm on my level 1 and I wanted to place a door, and this time let's say I wanted to do the single flush door, I could place it like that. Now some tricks. If you hold it on the one side of the wall, it'll flip. If you want to make it flip side to side like this and change its swing, push spacebar. Spacebar is the magic key for making things flip as you're placing them. Once you've placed the door, I hit escape so I don't place more of them, you can click on any one of these doors and you'll have some more controls. So you can make it swing in, swing out, and flip sides even after you've placed it. So you don't need to do a mirror command or anything. All these doors have that. This one doesn't have the side to side because it doesn't make a difference. But you can flip. This one does have the side to side even though it makes no difference unless it has a control button on one side. So you can also carefully place these doors on where you want to have them in the wall. By default, these witness lines go to the center of the door. And maybe that's what you want to do. Let's say we want 10 feet from the side. But let's say you knew where you wanted this jamb. You didn't care where this ended up. And you want to control that. So if I wanted to go from the face of this wall to this and say that's 10 feet, I would drag this witness line, hit tab once, so it clicks on the outer line there. And now you can see that this is moved to the face of the wall. And I'm going to drag this witness line, hit tab, so I make a selection on that door. So now it's attached there. Put in 10 feet. Now this door, this jamb is perfectly 10 feet off the side. You can do the same thing with real dimensions. I'll just do it this way. If I was putting in an annotation and I was trying to show the same measurement, and I clicked on this door, you'll see that that turns blue. That means that you can edit that. So if I want this to be 12 feet now, I can move it. Other things you can do is once you've placed the door, you can select them and switch them. Let's say I didn't want this to be 72 inches wide. I want it to be 68. See how it just changed? It changed on the center line. So now this is no longer 12 feet, but I can click on it and say I want it 12 again. Get it back to where it is. If I didn't want it to move, I can lock that dimension. And now, if I come back and make it wide again, it goes wide to the right and does not, if that's my hard dimension, I don't want that to ever change. I can constrain that by clicking that lock. So doors placement is fairly easy in Plan. Now we've gone through this. We can see how doors go in. Let's talk about placing some windows in one of these walls and what that means. And with the windows, we'll also look at changing some window types so that we can change their size and how they are placed. So with windows, we can go to the Architecture tab. There is a Windows button. And right now we just have fixed windows, we have windows, casements, and windows double hung. But the same thing goes. If none of those match what you needed, you can always go to Insert, Load Family. I'm still on doors, but if I back out and come down to the bottom, there's windows. And again, you'll see lots of windows types, including skylights. Skylights shown here, even though these are roof-mounted windows, they'll only go into a roof. You even have an instance-based window, which is nice. This instance-based versus type-based is in families, and I'll show an example of this. We'll load this instance-based in. So now that I loaded in, it wants to place it right away. So you can see it's looking to place. So I can click and it's there. So here is the difference between an instance-based window. So I have a fixed window instance and I have a fixed window type. And you'd see how the instance starts with a few types, just like the plain fixed. So let's put them side by side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this elevation and take a look at them. All right. So I'll start them both off at the exact same size. Oh, I can't because I've already placed the instance. Oops. We'll do it again. All right. So they're the same size. The difference between a type window, which is this one on the right, is if I make a change, let's say I place a bunch of these, and I make a change to one of them. Let's say I want all of these ones that I previously had named 36 by 72. I want them all to be 7 feet tall. Hit OK. They will all change. Instance won't. Like you saw when I placed it, and then I tried to change it to another size, it won't. The advantages to an instance-based family is, see these grips? It won't affect any of the other types if you just do this. So if I had an oddball family that I didn't feel like making a whole new type for, I can then just stretch a window out to fit what I needed. And you can copy this then, but this is the trick. If I edited this one, that one doesn't change. So types are, use types like this. If you're like, I have 30 windows in the building, they're all going to be the exact same size in this area. Make them all these fixed types. So that way, if you were like, whoops, I need to change them all to be an inch taller, you can change them and they all switch. So a couple things about placing doors and windows and using dimension tools. If I had a lot of these and I just slopped them in here, and they're not equally spaced at all or anything, here are some things you can do. Let's say I know I want this window right here, and I just want these ones evenly spaced between this window and here and the end of the wall. You can use the dimension tool and dimension between the center line of all these windows. And then what happens is, see how it says this non-equal sign? If I click the equal sign, it just equalized all of them. So if I turn it off again, it'll say, yeah, you can see it's an odd dimension, but it will equalize all of them. If I leave that on and ever move this window, you can see they follow course. So you can even do that and delete this dimension. And what it does is it asks you, do you want to leave that constraint, or do you want to unconstrain it because you deleted dimension? I can hit OK and leave that constraint. And now without seeing a dimension, when I move this outer window, they all move. So in order to remove that constraint again, you basically have to just redraw the dimension string the same way. And tell it unequal. And that breaks the dimension. So now if I move this, it just moves. The last thing we'll do with these windows is I just want to show you some more tools you can use, such as with match properties. So if I was placing in some casement windows, the matched property tools will work on a whole lot of things. I don't believe it'll work between a door and a window. See, it won't let you select it. But if you're talking about families of the same type, windows, and say, well, gee, those casements don't work. I want these fixed windows. You can click on one of these tools, and the match property is right here. It says paintbrush on your modify tab, or you can type in MA. So if you click on that, I want to say I want that window to match. It won't click on any of these windows because they're the same. You can't match them. But I could click on these. You can see that it will match. So last thing is with all these families that we bring in, we want to check their types. So if I click Edit Type, let's see what its properties are. So it has some materials you can set up. By default, it comes in with glass and a sash material for it. But then you also have the dimensions, the window insert, the width, and the default sill height. So when this thing gets placed, by default, it's a foot off the floor. So just to check that. It's a foot. That doesn't ever stop you from moving it up. It's just the default place point. So other things you can do, if you look at this in 3D, normally windows and doors come in with this fairly terrible wood grain to them. So it's pretty easy to come into that type and change the sash material. And then you can go through a variety of things. We can see if there's any aluminum in here. We can make it aluminum. Hit OK. And it's going to change all the families in that type. So you can see all of these families changed because they're all the exact same fixed 32 by 72. Now if I switch this to another one of those fixed, you'll see it goes back to that default material because we have not changed that type. So you can also change the glass. You should also be mindful when you're placing windows that they should be facing out. Don't place a window like this because that's backwards. This is the inner portion of the window. This side is the outer. So we want to, since this is our outside, we want to flip it back the same way you could flip a door. So that is a very quick crash course in placing families. One last thing that we wanted to do was to place a family in the curtain wall. So curtain wall is an entirely different beast. It's made up of panels, and this curtain wall is actually backwards in plan. So I am going to flip it. All right, so they're made up of panels. You can't place a door family in curtain wall. So if I came here with my single flush and wanted to place it, you see it will not put it there. It'll put it in this wall. It won't put it in the curtain wall. In curtain wall, what you have to do is swap out the panel. And it's a very specific type of door that would go in it. And the other oddball thing is the door will take the shape of the panel. So if this panel is not 3 by 6 or whatever you want your door to be, your door is going to be an odd shape. So just to quickly take you through that, we're going to load in some curtain wall doors. So load family. Let's do a single, double, but you can see these say door curtain wall. Those are the ones we want. Open. So now, in order to swap this into a door, I'm going to hit tab until I get the panel. Not getting the panel I want. I want this one. There we go. And see how I selected the system panel? Now, if I come here and click down, I can change it with any one of these. I can actually put a solid wall in place of the glass. But in this case, I am going to do the double curtain wall storefront. And you can see it's odd because if I come, let me jump back to my elevation on that side. It's really odd because if I click on this, I hit tab a few times, it's only 5 feet tall. 5 feet to the center of that mullion, so it's not even 5 feet tall. So if I wanted 7-foot doors, what I would have to do is I'd have to move this grid line. So I'd unpin that grid. And then what I normally like to do is to draw a dimension to the bottom of that grid so I know what I have. All right. So if I wanted that to move up a foot, I can move what I did was I came over and hit tab until I selected that grid line, which is the dotted line. I'm going to move that up a foot. And then what we can do is move it 1/32 of an inch. And if we want a 7-foot door, we can move it up 1 foot 1. All right, so now from the base here to the bottom of that mullion, we're at 7 feet. So another thing to do is to check between these grids, or these curtain wall. Yeah, see, we're still very narrow. So this is just part of the process of moving curtain wall around to do what you need it to do. And when you're done, you will actually have a properly sized door. The final trick for putting in a curtain wall door is, see this mullion on the bottom? We don't really want that. So again, we're going to unpin it, and we're just going to delete it. And your door slams down to the ground. And now you have a door in curtain wall. And if you go to your level, it is in fact a door. It has a swing. You could flip it around. And we won't get into this in studio, but if you were making a building, you would then start to tag your door so that it could show up in the door schedule. Turn off the leader. So this is a door tag, and you would label a tag for your entry number. And that will show up in your door schedule. So, okay, so that was a very quick run through of curtain wall doors, typical system family doors in walls, and how to arrange windows.